Hello everyone, welcome back to Homestuck. I'm still sick, but probably not as bad as before, as you can tell. My cold went, and this is true, and it's kind of crazy because it did like the full gamut of symptoms. Probably the flu, now that I think about it. Anyway, started with a sore throat, then it moved to be all congestion, which is what you heard me in last time, and now I'm just kind of like hawking up bits. So I'm coughing. That's where we're at now. If I have to stop the cough, I will. Particularly raspy voices might not be good. But thankfully, this is just some exposition, so it's not a bad start. Yeah, let's just get into it and watch Rose definitely die fighting the Empress. Nothing too crazy going on. Okay, here we go. It's bro. It's Dirk. I know his name now. Nobody at the time knew what the fuck she wanted to accomplish or what her actual motives were. She being the Empress, you know. But in retrospect, it became clear she was trying to essentially restore the conditions of her old home world, which she used to rule over as well. She began instituting these crazy laws. First of all, people weren't allowed to reproduce. She found our usual method of procreation revolting, and anyone who engaged in it was punished by death. But she still needed an ongoing population of subjects to abuse, so to propagate the race she set up this weird system. At random intervals, every citizen would be required to supply their genetic material to drones. That DNA would be collected and combined in some way. Many years later, long after the original donors had died, clones would be spawned from their DNA, so no one would ever be able to know who their parents were, or be able to trace their lineage. It was only through a bit of good fortune that Roxy and I were able to discover who our ancestors were. I guess. That does make sense why the planet's flooded in the future then, and also why the beta Earth is supposed to be successful, because this is the exact same thing that happened on the troll Earth, or the troll Alternia, that was successful. So, okay. They were the rebels you mentioned. Are they alive right now? I mean, in my time.
Yes.
Oh, I'm very curious about them and also my grandma.
I'll get to them, don't worry. Anyway, her imperious condescension turned out to be especially cruel to her human subjects. I'm sure her rule was no picnic on her home world, but I think she resented humans' biological incompatibility with the ideal empire she envisioned, and became frustrated. Humanity wasn't even really her first choice for rule. There are reports that she attempted to clone members of her own species and replace the human population with them, but they all died.
What happened to them? Oh, interesting.
The rumors say it was her own pet who killed them. The glove, I see. See, she traveled from her world to Earth in this huge red space ark. In it, she'd gathered thousands of creatures from her planet, I'm guessing to save them from extinction. This, more than anything, has led me to speculate that some cataclysm happened on her homeworld, and she moved on to greener pastures to rebuild her empire. She bred all these creatures in secret, increasing their numbers, preparing for her eventual takeover. Each monster, or lusus naturae, was meant to be kind of a caretaker of the young. You can see where the dramatic schism between our species and hers begins, and also why she had a reputation for being quite insane. But she also happens to have this one humongous sea monster, Lucis, that's like her own personal bodyguard, and kind of a secret weapon. But, turns out the thing was kind of an enigma, sort of a double-edged eldritch horror, as much in her service as it is calling the shots in some unfathomable way. Every time she tried to resurrect her race, it would slaughter them all psychically, as if it was keeping her ambition in check, or so the story goes.
Wait, these beasts tend to the young? I can tell you from first-hand experience that monsters are totally rotten at taking care of kids. They do a bang-up job of making them scared, though.
Exactly. The plan was beyond shitty.
So, does that mean you and Rox were raised by these things?
Nope. It was a very short-lived experiment centuries ago. Humans just don't have the same evolutionary symbiosis with those things that her race had. Turns out a bunch of fucking alien monsters have no interest whatsoever in taking care of human babies. They mostly just wind up eating them, or at best just abandoning them. Later she instated a lucidroid system to serve the same function, as she began phasing in more robotic solutions in favor of this ill-conceived biotech nonsense that always did nothing but backfire. Oh, scary. Even drones were replaced with robotic versions. I imagine they were just easier to produce and control since she'd given up hope of perfectly mirroring her own civilization in all its convoluted symbiotic glory. But not without a good fight, and not without taking her frustrations out on the human population. She attempted to enforce blood casting through efforts to genetically alter people's blood color. It was an ugly chapter. A lot of fucking people died from that debacle. Over the last 400 years, the population just got smaller and smaller from these atrocities piling up. But she clearly didn't give a shit. All the while, the amount of dry land kept shrinking due to the gradual flooding. Soon there was hardly anywhere left to live, and then that was that. No more people.
Oh, damn. Wait, flooding?
Oh, yeah. I probably should have mentioned this up front. One of the first things she did while in power was begin melting the ice caps. Took a while, but eventually the whole world flooded. That's how it is now. It's totally soaked up in this bitch.
Wow, like the epic Kevin Costner film.
Almost exactly. Especially by the same degree of shittiness.
Oh man, does that mean you have to drink your own pee?
You get used to the taste, welcome it even. That takes about 15 days in a row of hard piss drinking, though.
Ew, no dude, no, ew.
Relax, I don't drink any goddamn piss, okay?
Oh, okay, phew. I guess your Lucis droid thingy sees to it that you have fresh water?
Nope. Those stopped being a thing a long time ago, too, once humans went extinct.
Oh, well I thought... Who raised you then?
Nobody, man. I raised my damn self.
Jesus Christopher Kringle fucker. And here I thought I was rugged.
You're still rugged. You're just a fucking dork about it.
That's true.
I guess I did have Cal looking after me. Let's not discount the rad services of the Seaman, okay?
Heaven forbid. And what about Roxy?
Pretty sure the Capricians took care of her when she was young.
The what? Wait, the Watsits? Carapacians, never mind.
Right. Another thing I forgot to mention. There are a lot of these humanoid creatures with hard shells, some black, some white. As humanity was dwindling due to the increasingly whimsical and unstable condense, she began introducing more of these carapacians onto the scene.
Are they aliens too?
Sort of. They're definitely from other planets, so yeah. Really, the deal with where they came from is a whole other story for another time. But the bottom line is, at some point, somehow, she started herding a bunch of them from their homeworlds onto Earth and multiplying them. Something like 100 years ago, it became clear she favored these guys more than humans as her subjects. They're very loyal and seem genuinely dedicated to serving her. Must be what they were bred for. She still treats them like shit, though, unsurprisingly. All these colonies started sprouting up, like these modular cities floating on the water. Probably sounds cooler than it is, but they're basically slums. That's where they tend to live in large numbers. Roxy lives in one of those colonies. It's about 2,000 miles from where I am.
Oh, that's kind of interesting. Good gravy! Those are exotic circumstances! And here I was, thinking I had the most exciting and adventurous life. Turns out I'm just some chump on a boring-ass monster island in the silly old pre-apocalypse.
For what it's worth, I think it's gotta be more interesting living in the 21st century than the 25th. Like, it's really no contest.
You're probably right. I'd be really keen on talking to Roxy about this too. I'm very curious about her experience as a future lady with all the Watsits, the hardshell folk. I must say it turns my previous perception of your lives right on its friggin' ear.
Man, she'd love to talk to you all about this. She hates keeping secrets. It's been killing her not to spill all these fucking beans, spill all these fucking beans way the hell prematurely.
Like, what even is your day-to-day business like in See Hitler's Water Apocalypse? Okay, I've seen that song title too.
Well, I mostly shit around in my apartment all day, building stuff, reading about history, and flipping out with my sword.
Okay, yeah, it was flipping out.
Sometimes I go fishing and check out the underwater ruins. She does plenty of useless fucking around too, but at least she's got a neighborhood. She also uses one of her gadgets to gank vegetables and stuff from the past. She tries to feed the hungry neighbors whatever she can scrounge up.
I see, so that's why there were chess people there. Have this like pumpkin. Those are amazing stories. I'm so lucky to have friends like you. Oh, snap. What about Jane? Have you told her?
Jane is, no, I haven't. I've dropped some hints and tested her willingness to believe something like this. It's just not going to fly. It's way too much to drop on somebody all at once if they aren't receptive.
True, but it seems a shame to keep her out of the loop.
Well, tell her whatever you want. She'll likely think she's being fucked with. Personally, I wouldn't bother trying too hard to convince her. There's no point in alienating her. Ahaha. Someday she'll be ready to believe things.
Okay. Wow, I still have so many questions. It's incredible that this is all going to happen right around the corner. I don't know if I'm ready.
Like I said, the changes will be a little more gradual than that, more clandestine. She'll exploit the fear caused by her revelation to the world to create unintended reactions within governments and the media, and her agents embedded on the inside will help nudge things in the direction she wants. Then, 20-some years down the road, without anyone suspecting a thing, she'll suddenly be in complete control, and Earth will be fucked.
I want to join the opposition. Fuck this witch. I have lots of guns and reckless bravado, and I want to stop her. I'll pick up where my grandma left off.
Well, aside from the main reasons that won't happen, which I won't get into, it still wouldn't be a good idea.
Horseshit! Why not?
'Cause people way better at this than you tried and died. You said you wanted to hear about our ancestors.
Yes. Heck yes, bro.
Well, how much do you actually remember about your grandma? What have you read and what do you remember?
My memory of her is pretty foggy. I do know she loved adventure just like me. That's why she was exploring this island and raising me here when she died. She was a fair markswoman and knew her way around an atom or two. Pretty sure her company made a tidy fortune till it went belly up. At least I still have a few of her knickknacks for keepsakes. And as you confirmed, she was raised by that evil spinster. But then again, from some of the things my pen pal has said, it kind of throws some of those details into question, so I don't know what to think.
I don't know what the deal is with your pen pal either, and I'm not really prepared to speculate on that right now. But I'm privileged to a shitload of historical data I can share. What's the last thing you remember about her?
Well, it was the night I found her dead.
I'm going to cough. Give me a second. Oh no, Jade.
She had gone off to study the ruins one day. I am pretty sure that was her purpose on this island, to study the technology here and solve all of the astonishing mysteries. She even built that big fancy house we used to live in so I guess she really wanted to settle here for a while. But she didn't come home from her expedition for a couple of days, so I started to get worried. I followed the trail we usually take to the lagoon while keeping my eyes peeled for monsters, but instead I found her lying there, dead. I think a monster caught her off guard. There were 3 big fang marks in the body and a trail of blood along the path. It looked like she was trying to get home but couldn't make it before succumbing to the injury. But before I could even do anything about it, I heard an explosion. I looked back at the hill and my house was gone.
Oh. Yeah, wasn't a monster. At least not in the traditional sense.
Just a big poof of smoke where it was standing. So, I lived alone in the jungle ever since.
Huh, I wondered about all that.
Well, you never asked.
Oh, I know. I would've. But asking about your past would have just been inviting you to do the same. You know how it goes.
Indeed.
But for the record, I don't think those were fang marks on the body, dude.
No?
Finish the story first. Then what?
Well, I was very depressed.
This is kind of a scary thing, I guess, because the glasses are solid red, it just kind of looks scary.
No, there's not much more to it. I had to deal with Grandma's body. I would have loved to give her a proper and dignified memorial like Jane's granddad got. God, Jane is so lucky every day in her household. So lucky, Beer. Every day in her household must be like Weekend at Bernie's. What a riot it must be, I'm so jealous.
Yeah, what a fucking treat. A living room corpse party every goddamn day.
I know, right? Alas, I had to dispose of the body with haste so the monsters wouldn't eat her. So I just made a little campfire and burned it. I keep the ashes deep in the ruins, which is where I think she liked it best. Hopefully there isn't an earthquake or something that would knock the urn over in a predictable and hilarious fashion.
No way, man. I bet my bottom boombuck that shit's eternally safe. That urn's like the Fort Knox of standing upright forever because of no accidents.
Yeah. So then after camping out the next day, I went exploring and found my room globe mostly intact sitting in the jungle, so that's where I've lived since. And that's pretty much it. I sure miss my grandma, though. She was the best.
She was definitely very brave, if the stories are true. Downright audacious, I'd say.
What have you heard?
Oh dear. Well, like I said, she was raised by the Baroness. It was probably a worse childhood than either of us had. She wasn't related, obviously. Ain't nobody's related to a damn fish alien. Except other fish aliens, probably. She had an adoptive brother, too. Life must have been miserable for both of them.
Yes, I vaguely remember her mentioning him. Cripes, the things she told me, now that I think about it. She said the witch even killed her dog.
Oh, no.
Is that true?
I don't know, but I wouldn't doubt it. There are other urban legends that she did a lot of experiments on animals and people, mostly to do with mind control, like figuring out ways to unlock all of her psychic alien potential to increase her power. Not sure if that's true, if it was actually successful, though.
Oh, so this is saying that she has both Vriska and Tavros' powers. Yeah, that's not good. Anyway. So what you're saying is pretty much any unspeakably horrible thing she could have done, she probably did.
Yes. Anyway, your grandma managed to run away when she was quite young. Maybe it was a traumatic event like dog murder that prompted her to flee, who knows? Whatever the case, her bro stayed behind. That guy must have been seriously immune to witnessing fucked up shit, because he went on to be a famous comedian. A real kindly old cornball. A nicer guy you couldn't have hoped to meet, they say.
Wow, must have been a hell of a guy.
Yeah. So, you're not making any connections there?
Where, huh?
Famous comedian, about the age of your grandma, inheriting the family name of the Baroness. Not ringing a bell?
What are you talking about? Dirk, stop speaking in riddles and keep telling the story. I am tenterhooks here. I'm on I've never heard that word. Tenterhooks here.
Okay, well, it's not like it's that important. Just a super obvious thing that'll probably occur to you later when you're looking in the fridge you don't have, at which point you'll feel like an idiot.
Oh my god, you can be one opaque motherfucker. Just clue me in, bro.
Nah, it'll be funnier this way.
Strider!
Moving on.
Ah, my eyeballs.
The kid kept the family name, but obviously your grandma didn't. She must have held a grudge against the Baroness her whole life. She started by taking a different name she knew would stick in her craw.
Oh, I remember this. I believe she said the witch used to be married to a terrible man named English.
Oh, I see.
So, because the witch really hated that guy, she took on his name as a sort of big old fuck you to the woman.
That's probably close to the truth, but it sounds like the kind of story an old lady tells her young grandson in a way he would understand, or at least that wouldn't scare the shit out of him. What I've read is something much more sinister, as usual. There's supposedly only one thing the Baroness fears, and your grandma learned of this somehow. It wasn't an ex-husband, though. It was her superior. Some kind of demon, or another alien. No one really knows. But he went by the name English. He's supposedly even more brutal than she is, if you can believe it.
So I'm named after a demon. What kind of demon is named English, anyway?
What kind of alien is named Crocker? It's probably just the name he stole from someone else like the Baroness did.
I guess it's kind of cool being named after a demon who's so scary even the witch is afraid of him.
Yeah, well, your grandma sure thought so. Everything she did in life thereafter seemed to be in an effort to piss off the Batter Witch, like starting a competing tech company, heavily branded in a way that was presumably intended to remind the Baroness of her boss, like with skulls and garish colors and shit, due to some kind of skull monster, I guess.
I love skulls!
I know. Hoppy voodoo. It was definitely brave on her part, but ultimately it got her a bankrupt company, a blown-up house, and a fork through the torso for her trouble. But she must have been the first to understand how dangerous the Baroness was while acting in covert opposition. Others would follow and continue to as of now in your time period.
These are your ancestors?
Yeah, mine and Roxy's were among them.
Anyone I've heard of?
Of course, all these fuckers are totally famous, obviously.
Oh, sure, obviously.
We've talked about the guy I'm genetically derived from a lot, actually. Like, you know, every time we've talked about my bro.
Gadzooks, of course! With all of your future mindfuckery, you made me completely forget about your vaunted Hollywood sibling. I should have asked where he fit into the picture if you were raised alone. I can be dumb as a bag of penny candy sometimes.
Okay, I'm gonna cough again, so give me a sec. Sometimes. Other times you're on point, like a bag of the nickel shit.
Well now, those are the sweets kept in reserve for millionaires. Such flattery.
Okay, what we're saying stopped meaning anything, so I'll continue.
Right. So then he was never actually your bro.
No, it's just that that's kind of how I view him. Lalonde took on a more maternal view of her ancestor. For some reason. Arbitrarily.
The lady who wrote all of the dreary wizard books, I presume.
Yeah, the Coddle series. Ever read it?
Oh, this is interesting. No, I tried, and it's too depressing. And also, kind of impossible to understand. I told Roxy I liked it, though. I didn't want to hurt her feelings, so don't say I've ever said that. I think I'll wait for the movies to come out. I bet I'll like those better.
You don't say.
I do say. Hey, you must have seen them. What being in the future? Are they any good?
They are not.
Phooey to that. Like I even believe you.
The books are pretty interesting, though, if somewhat dense. They're supposedly heavily allegorical, veiled representations of cosmic events surrounding the witch and her boss and how this all came about. It's the kind of thing you wouldn't pick up on unless you were someone who understood what happened, like the condense, which was kind of the point. I think it was her way of letting the witch know, I'm on to you. In the early days of the resistance movement, they both opposed her more indirectly, through their art, like critics of tyrannical governments often used to. They had to be careful, didn't want to make big waves too early. My bro did this too with many of his fine films. Practically everything was a symbol for something, either in mockery of the Batter Witch or conveying some hidden message to its audience. Each film was always rigorously picked apart for its head-scratching symbolic meaning, but he managed to accomplish all that without ever compromising the purity of his ironic vision, which I think was admirable. The Mavavi.
Fuck yes, the Spahaj films rule! Screw the haters, that's what I say.
You also say that about Weekend at Bernie's.
Man, that is a scandalous mischaracterization. Nobody hates Weekend at Bernie's. The WAB films are generally regarded as so unremarkably mediocre they don't even attract any trolls who care enough to shit on it. Believe me, I've tried to get in debates with people about it.
Yeah, you pretty much touche'd the fuck out of that, but we are definitely in agreement about my bro's films as the masterstrokes they were. He just kept cranking them out, too. He really stepped up production after 11-11-11. Even though the cat was finally out of the bag, he was very dedicated to his craft.
Dang, I can hardly wait to see them.
Yeah, I wouldn't hold your breath about that.
Why not?
Man, fuck it. I'll just send you them. Just keep the lid on them. We don't need any of this weird causality shit rearing its head here. That'd be dumb.
I will guard each glistening compression artifact with my life, as if a jewel pilfered from a tomb.
Which was the last you saw?
Well, there was Spahaj the movie, and Spahaj the film. Oh yeah, and Spahaj the movie. I think Spahaj the movie is still in production, right? But honestly, I get confused about which particular misspelling is attributed to which film, or even if I'm getting the misspellings right.
The key to sorting it all out is to understand it doesn't actually matter. Through video streaming services, he would frequently set it up so that buying a certain title would ship you the wrong film, and often titles for movies that were available for sale that just straight up didn't exist, or would be sold for dollar amounts that would make no sense, like 2.890.1. Sometimes buying a download would actually deposit money into your account instead of deducting from it. It was all part of the experience.
Your forebears are certainly entrepreneurial, if nothing else. I can get behind the idea of making a killing if it means I also get to be as good at doing adventures as I hope to be. Did they ever bring the battle to the witch's doorstep, or were the blows dealt strictly through public masquerades and theatrics?
Yeah, they got pretty deep into the shit eventually. They were both very skilled combatants. Pretty sure she had some weird powers too.
Powers, you say?
Communing with occult forces, something like that. She knew things, had visions. That's why she was able to write these books, and more importantly, why Roxy and I were able to survive here.
How?
They knew we'd be here someday, so they prepared for our arrival. I live in what used to be my bro's old apartment 400 years ago. Whole city is gone, but this one unit was somehow protected. He left some supplies for me here, like a lifetime supply of orange soda in the crawl space, along with a fuck ton of Spahaj merch. It was like discovering my own personal holocaust of bulbous jutting bottoms, plus some weapons, some other gear, and a killer pair of shades. Roxy's mom used to live in her place too, and left some stuff she might need lying around. This was way before there were carapacian colonies, though. I think her house must have been some kind of kernelized structure, like a potential colony. Something built to undergo modular self-replication if activated. I'm sure her mom knew that. It's been a good way for rocks to blend in. I stick out like a sore thumb here, of course, but it hasn't really been a problem yet.
So, they knew you would show up in the future someday and prepared for that. Doesn't that mean they also knew they weren't going to be able to stop the witch?
Probably, but they went down fighting anyway.
Wow, that's brave and kind of sad.
Yeah, but wouldn't you?
Of course! You always go down guns blazing. That's what a hero does when he loves adventure and has guns. If there's one thing movies have taught me, besides the fact that guys using a corpse as a silly puppet is friggin' hilarious, it is that fact.
It's not like their rebellion was totally futile. They took a lot of shitheads down with them.
Who?
Sympathizers.
Ugh, just the thought of such scoundrels turns my stomach.
It should. In order for you to understand, I'll have to fill you in on the ridiculous final gasps of human civilization, taking place over the several decades leading to its absolute enslavement, the decades which immediately followed the rebranding.
Why is this Guy Fieri?
As I mentioned, Crocker Corp's rebranding on 3/11, as it was often referred to in the news, totally changed everything. It marked the beginning of a completely shameless downward spiral of Western civilization, through a series of events that were probably hard to notice at the time, but quite glaring when evaluated historically. Though, the Baroness made very few substantive gestures of aggression. The global fear of her looming threat would trigger all the changes she needed. Governments prepared for war, as if to defend against the invading alien army she undoubtedly commanded. But of course she had no army. She was always the only of her kind.
Hold on, I'm going to cough again. Okay, hopefully I'm good.
Ugh. Instead, the world powers were only setting about to build her armies for her. The media deteriorated into this preposterous circus that was in all practical ways inseparable from the power base and government institutions. Popular entertainers became dangerous demagogues, and their roles in the media blurred with those of executive authority. And the most dangerous were the ones who fed into the fear and hysteria most effectively. Those tended to be plants, unscrupulous shills paid by the Baroness to move her agenda forward.
Dang, I would like to think I would not be suckered by their silvery tongues whenever they come along.
Well, the thing is, most of them are already on the scene in your time.
Who?
Ever hear of Guy Fieri?
No, I don't think so.
You're fortunate then. He was an especially degenerate piece of filth. He used his connections and guile to wriggle into the spotlight, and then on to other positions of power. He somehow landed on the U.S. Supreme Court. Over the years, other justices started mysteriously disappearing without being replaced. After helping rewrite the Constitution to form an incomprehensible patchwork of fascism, theocratic mandates, recipes, and bad rap lyrics, he weaseled his way up the ranks to become the High Chaplain of interstellar war. I'm just going to cut to the chase, because this really ain't a big history lesson here. He eventually came to be regarded as the third and final Antichrist. No other human in history was responsible for more death and suffering.
Man, it's so funny to be teleported back into a time when people hated Guy Fieri. Because that was a thing. Now everybody loves Guy Fieri. Isn't that funny? Oh no, the insane clown posse.
That boorish cur!
Yeah, that's exactly the phrase I would use to describe someone responsible for the extermination of 5 billion people. It was just so uncivilized of him.
How could such an atrocity be allowed to happen? Was his personal magnetism really that overwhelming?
Maybe overwhelming in the wrong direction, yeah. But it didn't happen overnight. It was a gradual decline in the integrity of the system that allowed it. Eventually the wheels came off and the political scene mirrored the absurdity of the media circus. By the time Presidents Jay and Dope were elected, Western civilization had officially fucked itself over forever, and I think everybody knew it.
Oh no. When does that happen?
2024. The last free election the world would ever see. Oh no! We've got so little time left.
So, like, they were on the ticket together? As president and vice president?
Nah, man, they were both president. They were the first dual presidents of the United States of America. Also the last. They're also the first and last juggalo presidents. The Founding Fathers warned us about this, but nobody listened.
They did? Warned us about what exactly?
The mirthful executives. George Washington had a prophetic nightmare about them. He tried to warn people and get language amended to the Constitution to prevent it, like forbidding the election of what he famously described as a pair of salty bards, or unruly jesters given to the sweet drink, but everyone just thought he toked too hard on the colonial cannabis or whatever.
I'm not sure I follow. These are like clown presidents or such?
Yeah, they ran a shitty rap duo from your time, but they ran a hell of a campaign. By then, the Juggalo party had gotten huge. While the numerous other candidates split the moderate vote, they retained a very energized and devoted base. You could really say their party had a big tent.
Dirk, I really dislike the future you are describing.
Hey, me too. They were swept into office on a wave of Fago, and the presidential inauguration was the biggest gathering of the Juggalos of all time. They all hosed each other down on the White House lawn with shitty soda. The DC in the Capitol thereafter officially stood for Dark Carnival. Of course, their campaign was helped considerably by having support from the Baroness. In retrospect, people developed the impression that it was all a part of her sick sense of humor. There was this sense that she just loved the idea of delegating the extreme subjugation of the world's population to a pair of demented clown rappers. Someone speculated this was another way she was attempting to resurrect her previous model of governance, though that seems kind of far-fetched to me. Who the fuck ever heard of an alien juggalo? To me, this is about as stupid as the crackpot theories get.
Yeah. Man. Who's ever heard of that? I realized that those are juggling balls, but the first time I saw them, I did think they were Dragon Balls.
The Dark Carnival.
2024, the last free election the world would ever see, huh? Sometimes it feels like it. You know, reading this, I'm getting a little worried. Guy Fieri having, like, so much public adoration that he's able to go on the Supreme Court and start instituting fascist laws. I mean, people like him. The institution of fascist law? I don't know. I don't know about that part. 2024 being the last free election in history. I don't know if it'll be Juggalos, but oh my goodness. Dave fought the Juggalos. Okay. I still don't really get what a Juggalo is. Do they juggle?
Don't worry about it. People are less prepared for a double Juggalo presidency than they ever imagined. I'm not going to get into all the horrifying details, trust me. You just start to feel dirty reading about it. From the moment Fieri held up the Bible to swear them in, and the three of them proceeded to publicly defecate on it while freestyling rap lyrics, that was it. Everyone in the world watching it on TV just said, well, show's over. Civilization was pretty cool while it lasted. The next several grueling terms of their presidency was a weird combination of authoritarian practices. The Baroness used it as a puppet regime, while still basically giving them carte blanche to carry out their idiotic whims. Fago was pumped through the plumbing instead of tap water. The new national pastime was having type 2 diabetes, and the national anthem was replaced with a 3-minute high reverb audio clip of President J farting into a microphone while laughing. Chaplain Fieri was authorized to set up the death camps, in which anyone on the planet could be imprisoned if they were not deemed sufficiently mirthful. And so the cleansing began, priming humanity for its new ruler waiting in the wings. That was when our ancestors had enough. The resistance movement had failed, and they could at least bring the war criminals to justice. My bro finally caught up with the presidents and challenged them to a duel. They accepted, having for years regarded him as a cocky rival rapper who failed to show them the proper respect. In their arrogance, they invited him into the foul belly of the carnival, believing they could teach him once and for all what it truly meant to be down with the clown. For centuries thereafter, survivors of the Holocaust would cite the rooftop showdown as one of the most heroic moments in human history. Wow, good job, Dave. He killed them both. And then he skateboarded away. Unfortunately, as they were only figureheads, no liberation followed. There'd be no parades in the streets, or statues cast, or medals awarded. The few witnesses would report seeing only a man with a sword on a shitty skateboard gently rising into the night sky, and no one ever saw him again.
So he could still be alive. And Rose killed Guy Fieri?
Meanwhile, Roxy's mom was tracking down the High Chaplain. His crimes had already been committed. She couldn't repay them by any stretch of the imagination, but she could wipe the blood-stained grin off that fat bastard's face. She gouged his eyes with a pair of needles and rode his torso to the bottom of the bloody falls. Reports of what happened to our ancestors after that are sketchy. There are no eyewitness accounts I've found, but some believe they regrouped and confronted the Condens herself.
I don't know why I keep saying condense. That's not right. Condess
herself, with all her high-ranking officers dead and the human population decimated and sufficiently groomed for her arrival. There was no reason to stay behind the scenes anymore. After those dreadful years of putting up with a more vulgar brand of authoritarianism, when she finally stepped forward to claim her throne, it actually came off as somewhat dignified, elegant in a way. She was no less severe, but at least she knew how to act like an empress. Not the Statue of Liberty. And she's controlling a dragon with her mind. But even if they did manage to confront her... Oh, and Godcat. Uh-oh. There was no way they could win. She had too many crazy alien powers. Her boss supposedly had jacked her power level through the roof. I've even heard, and don't quote me on this, that she may have been over 9,000.
Heavens to Betsy! That figure is just absurd!
Yeah, it's not even to speak of the generic smorgasbord of other powers she was rumored to have. It gets hard to separate the fact from the urban myth. But for reference, if you want to believe it all, just picture all the X-Men combined into one sexy fish woman in a skin-tight suit.
Whoa, mama!
The broken sword prophecy is fulfilled. Whatever actually went down, they're surely both dead now. I guess it had to happen like that, though. There's no way the Condess would allow us to be born within even a century of our genetic forebears. The thought of that was completely disgusting to her. But I really would have liked to be able to meet them. I guess some things would just be too awesome to ever stand a chance of happening. Yeah, it'll never happen.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Wait.
What?
Dirk, didn't you tell me at some point that you did find evidence the witch killed them?
As of now, no.
Are you sure? I swear I remember you saying something about that.
How could I have said anything like that before today? This is obviously the first time I've mentioned any of this.
Oh. I'm just having the nuttiest deja vu thing going on now. I feel weird. I guess I am mistaken. Never mind.
Did he see a future vision? He probably saw a future vision. I'm going to have to stop now. It's been long enough, and also my voice is dying. So, thanks for watching. Sorry this was late for all you members, but couldn't really help it. And I know you... I know you're not mad at me because nobody screamed at me yet on the community post. So, thank you for your tolerance. Anyway, I can't believe Guy Fieri was evil all along. We're going to have to be watching... Are there elections this year? I'm not American, so I don't keep up that much about it. Let me just search that up. I thought they were the year after, but I guess it's usually an even year, isn't it? Let's just see. Yeah, okay. There is.
We're in danger.
Oh boy, what's a good question for this video? I actually had a good one in my head a while ago before I recorded this. What was that? Ooh. Oh, that's what it was. Okay. Let me just go to Tier Maker really quick. And I'm not going to do a tier list because, again, we've barely seen anything different at this point. Dave and Rose are cool in this timeline. Great. Where's the one that I've used? There it is. Okay. So here's my question, right? If the living trolls right now, so that being like Terezi, Karkat, etc., were the ones that got killed instead of the ones that are currently dead, Tavros, Vriska, etc., do you think they could have managed to pull off the plan? And I don't know what happens in the future with the trolls and how important they are, but do you think they could have succeeded in that as well? So I think Aradia has to be around either way, or else they're not going anywhere. They'd have to find some way to get the meteor to the green sun, which seems like it'd be pretty hard without Solix. But I guess maybe it's possible that Solix dying happens at the same time anyway.
So let's just say it's a swap of Nepeta, Equius, Eridan, Pfefferi for Kanaya, Karkat, Terezi, and Gamzee. That's the swap. And I guess Tavros and Vriska would then supposedly swap with... That's really hard to figure out. But let's just say less people died then, because it's not a straight-up swap. Solix still dies in the same way, and Aradia still has to be there. But everybody who died before, so Vriska, Tavros, Eridan, Pfefferi, Nepeta, and Equius, are alive right now, and all the other ones are dead. Do you think they could do it? And the reason this question came to mind is because I was thinking it would be so satisfying to see Pfefferi go up against the Empress, because they're like complete opposites, and it's like her destiny, right? That was like her destiny, was to fight her. And now she's not going to get to, because she's dead. I just thought about that the other day. So that's my question for you. Obviously no spoilers, but let me know how you think about that. And yeah, that's it for this video. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.